What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Zach SchuZ Shoemaker. I appreciate every single one of you guys for tuning in tonight to the SchuZ Show, late night show of the SchuZ Show. And the reason I had planned for this, I know yesterday I believe I said it's going to be early afternoon, but guess what? When I thought about it, I'm like, why not hop on, give you guys a live reaction or a post-fight reaction to the New York Times Square card. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys tonight. So let's get right into this thing now. All right. Where do I even begin with this card? Let's start with the positives. It's always like what I like to do. Positives, the scenery was incredible. I think that it was a great idea, the Times Square thing. Not something I want to see all the time, obviously a one-off thing. But to say this happened, the setup, all that was a very, very cool thing. I love what they had set up there. That was great. The backdrop, everything there was cool. The fights, not so much. What we just witnessed was a bunch of highly anticipated fights that did not deliver. I'm going to start with the bottom of the card just to get these things over with and then head to the three main fights, all right? We have the FDNY versus the NYPD fight. James Gennari defeated Joel Allen, meaning the FDNY won the amateur 3-round boxing fight. That was maybe one of the most entertaining things of the entire night. Cool thing, good setup. Obviously, it was a quick little fight. Just got it over with. I think that was a cool addition with it being in New York City. Cool idea. Is what it is. I'm not going to go too much into that. Then we head into a fight that was not anticipated for the sense of it being a big-time fight, but for the sense of saying, okay, what are we going to have from one of the top rising Japanese stars and prospects, I should say. Well, Renato Tatsumi came out there and was fine, but let me say this. I've never been someone that's a big advocate for hyping up prospects prior to even making a pro debut. The difference between amateur boxing and pro boxing is drastic. And when we were going through the, discussing of the fights and what to expect from Tatsumi tonight, there was talks of saying this guy could be the next Inoue. He could be on that level. And I'm not saying he can't be that. What I saw tonight did not rule out any opportunity for him to go become the next Inoue or next great Japanese or boxing star. But what I want to say is the fact that we were saying that this kid, 22 years old, never fought before in a pro ring, even putting in the same sentence as a guy like Inoue is kind of outlandish. Let me just be honest with you. Not a big fan of that. And did he deliver? He was fine. He got the win on the scorecard 60-54 on two of them, 58-56 on the other one. Wasn't bad. Solid. He showed good things. But he obviously is not walking away from the performance in a situation where I say, you know what? This kid is legit. He is the next Inoue or anything along those lines. That's somebody I say, okay, I'm excited to see what he's got in the future. I think he's going to be a great boxer. But at the very same time, no. Is this a guy that I look at with a sense of wanting to proclaim him as the next Inoue? No. At the same time, I want to say this about Whittington, the opposition who we fought that night. He might be one of the best 1-3-1 fighters I've ever seen. He performed very, very well, exceeded expectations. I think a lot of people were expecting a quick KO, easy defeat. It was not that. It was actually a very, very good test for Tatsumi. And I think for Whittington, he's going to see himself on other cards in the future. Not anything probably large scale or massive or anything along those lines. But I do think we'll see Whittington appear on some cards here and there in the future and going forward. Solid fight. We'll see what happens. All right, let's get to the three main fights. This was labeled as three main events for this card. And it was a solid fight cards. Overall, I mean, it happened. But let me just be honest with you guys. What I just witnessed here was three fights that were not good. All the potential in the world was set up for this fight card to be great. Times Square, atmosphere was fine. It was obviously a cool setup. All these different things. Such a unique experience. And yet I'm going to sit here right now and say all of the stuff that from the promotion aspect was handled great. Inside of that ring was an absolute atrocity tonight. And I don't want to take anything away because two guys did show up to fight tonight. The names are Teofimo Lopez and the winner of one of the biggest upsets of this year, most likely, Rolly Romero. Those two guys showed up and wanted to fight in that ring tonight. The other fighters, or the other four guys, Aaron Barboza, Jose Ramirez, and Ryan Garcia, and Devin Haney, none of them wanted to be there tonight. It was an embarrassing performance. And I'm not sure what to really elaborate on. I can give examples of why this may or may not have happened for each guy, but all I'm going to say is that those four guys did not want to go out there and fight tonight. It was an embarrassing night in terms of the display of performances from those guys. And to be quite frankly honest, for two guys specifically named Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, they lost themselves likely a lot of money tonight. Because even prior to the Ryan Garcia fight happening, the performance that Devin Haney had already dropped the excitement for the rematch drastically. It was at a point where I was looking at and said, okay, Devin Haney does not look like he's ready for Ryan Garcia. Little did I know that Ryan Garcia was going to show up the way he did. And now it's like, okay, nobody really wants to see this rematch right now, at least. Just absolutely embarrassing action there. No other way to put it other than that. So let's dive into each one of these fights specifically. Teofimo Lopez, the champion, defending his belt as well as the Ring Magazine belt. 116-112 on two of the scorecards, 118-110 on the other one, and he defeats Arnold Barboza Jr. For Teofimo Lopez, listen, he came out and made a statement tonight. I think he is the only him and Raleigh, of course, the two hasn't made a statement. When you talk about Teofimo Lopez, he came out and he looked incredible tonight. It wasn't the most entertaining fight in the world, no, but he had a guy in Arnold Barboza that didn't even want to go out there and fight with him tonight. It was just a beatdown the entire time. Now, I don't want to say beatdown since he hurt him or anything along those lines, but he defeated Barboza, and it was quite easily. It was not a competitive fight. Teofimo Lopez ran circles around him. He had an excellent performance. All credit goes to Teofimo Lopez, who now sets himself up for another big fight in the future. Here's what drives me crazy about Teofimo Lopez, because this was the best performance by Lopez in quite some time. What I will say is that he is a fighter, as we've all learned over time, that does not always live up to the expectations. He tends to fight to the level of his opposition time and time again, which is not a very good thing. And that's why we have seen him get in the ring with a guy like Steve Claggett, and others that it's just like, what's going on? Jermaine Ortiz and the likes of those. George Kambosos and those type of guys. And then we see him step into the ring with a guy like Vasily Lomachenko, and he looks incredible. So Teofimo Lopez is obviously a guy that when you look at him, he has the potential to be a top 10 pound-for-pound guy, and when he's at his peak, he certainly is in that group. The biggest problem for Teofimo Lopez is that he does not always perform to that level. And so what makes me interested then is, okay, he called out Jerome Boots Ennis after the fight. You might say, why does that fight interest me? Well, I'm honestly not a big fan of that, but he called him out. What I will say about that fight is, while I would predict right now, way too early, I would clearly pick Jerome Boots Ennis to get the KO win on Teofimo Lopez. But what I will say is that at the very same time, Teo is a guy that likes to show up and, like I said, fight to the level of opposition. When those guys are at an elite level, Lopez gets the best version of himself out. So it could make that fight interesting for a little bit. I do pick Boots in that fight there. But what I will say is, honestly, for Teofimo Lopez, if I'm him, 147's got some movement going on right now. Why don't you stay at 140? 140's got some guys right now where you could clean out that entire division if you really wanted to. You could have a unification against the winner of Richardson Hitchens or George Kambosos, whoever wins that fight coming up in a couple of weeks now. I think it's actually about a month out now. You could have multiple other oppositions where you go and unify, become undisputed at 140. If I was Teofimo Lopez, that's the fights I'm going for right now. You're still young, you still have a chance to do that. Don't go up to 147 yet, because I'm not quite sure how successful he'll be there. When you look at the likes of Jerome Boots Ennis, Brian Norman Jr., obviously, it kind of dims the light now, but you do have Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney there. Connor Ben could potentially be in the mix right there. You have Mario Barrios, who I think he could beat Mario Barrios, but you have him who's fighting Manny Pacquiao. We've talked about that enough times. So on and so forth. But if I'm Teofimo Lopez, I'm sticking around right now at 140, and I'm looking around and saying, you know what? This is a weight class where if I lock in and I'm the best version of myself, there's no reason in the world where I can't become undisputed here. That's what I like to see him do. Now, would I be shocked to see him still go up to 147 and welterweight and go challenge Boots Ennis? Not at all. And could he do that? Of course. He's earned the right. He had a great performance tonight. Is that what I want to see, though? No. I want to see him go at 140, clean up the division, and move up in a year or two, whatever it takes, and then make that transition to 147. I think that makes the most sense for him. But overall, round of applause to Teofimo Lopez. Out of everybody in this card, like I said, two guys decided to come out and fight and actually put on a show tonight. He is one of them. Whether he was the most entertaining guy in the world or not, give props to Teofimo Lopez. He took care of business. He had an excellent performance tonight. He looked incredible, and he actually came out and showed out tonight and did his job. Major round of applause and respect to Teofimo Lopez. Let's go to the fight that featured two guys that had no desire to be in the ring whatsoever tonight, in Devin Haney and Jose Ramirez. I made a tweet about this at the end of the fight. This might be the first time I've ever seen a guy get a clean sweep, all the fights, all the rounds, and still look atrocious. I don't think I've seen something this pathetic in my life in terms of a fight. When you talk about Devin Haney and Jose Ramirez, he wins the scorecard 119-109 on two of them, 118-110 on the other scorecard. And when I look at this right here, Devin Haney was shell-shocked. He didn't know, he was very, very uncomfortable, very, very stiff. It was not good, and especially in the beginning of the fight. Holy cow, that was bad. He loosened up, albeit very, very minorly. He loosened up a little bit as the fight progressed. But still, when we're talking about the ending of that fight and the entirety of that fight, he did not look good. He did not want to take hits. You could tell he was hesitant in the ring. He had a ton of ring rust. Saying he had ring rust is probably an understatement, to be honest with you. That was not a good performance whatsoever from Devin Haney. I was not impressed at all by that. And I think when you look at that, you say, well, he just dominated the scorecards. Rightfully so. That's about the scorecards I had there as well. That's because of the guy he was fighting. I don't know what Jose Ramirez was doing in there. He looked shot, completely shot. That was a horrible performance by him. Where it's at the point where it was such a bad performance where I just wonder, what is he going to do going forward? He's not going to get an opportunity like this for a very, very long time. And it was not inspiring for what he could do in the future as well. Just an embarrassing performance by Jose Ramirez, who allowed Devin Haney to win that fight simply based upon the fact that Devin Haney just did a little bit more than literally nothing, which is what Jose Ramirez did. We're saying that there was, in a 36-minute fight, 110 punches is all that were landed. Let that number sink in there. 36 minutes, 110 punches is all that was landed. You're telling me that basically, I mean, I don't even, just look at the numbers itself. There's too many numbers I've listed here you could possibly break down in terms of that. Just how insane that was. We were only seeing a handful of punches landed each round. I mean, just abysmal work. What were we watching in the ring tonight there? So yes, Devin Haney keeps his O. Congratulations. I know he values that O drastically. But that was not impressive whatsoever. And now, because of what I'm going to talk about very shortly in the Ryan Garcia fight, the rematch is over anyways, and I'm saying glad that should be the case. Because that rematch is no longer something that I anticipate, and I was already not anticipating that fight after I witnessed the way Devin Haney fought. Plain and simple. Devin Haney was going to need another fight or two regardless to get ready for Ryan Garcia, and now it's like, okay, wow, both guys just look pathetic tonight. But Devin Haney, where does it go from now? Go from here? He's obviously situating himself at 147. Do I see him getting a big fight? I don't know. I'll be 100% honest with you. I really do not know what's next with Devin Haney because I think he legitimately does need another fight or two until he is ready to go make that jump and compete against the likes of a John Boots Ennis, compete against Brian Norman, any of those guys. He is skilled. I believe it's still in there, but that ring rust was so evident tonight. Devin Haney has a lot of work to do. He needs to get whatever was going on with him tonight. He's got to fix that, get that figured out, and move on. Overall, that was probably one of the worst main event type of fights that I've seen in a very, very long time. And it's probably one of the worst boxing fights I've seen. Horrible, horrible fight. Let's go to the main event. All was looking cool. The Batmobile pull up from Ryan Garcia. All was going well. And we get in the ring. First round's fine. Whatever. Feeling each other out. Second round comes. Boom. Garcia gets knocked down to the ground. Gets dropped by Rolly Romero. And everyone goes, wow. Not entirely shocking from the standpoint that, okay, Raleigh's one chance at winning was going to be off his power. And he showed that he got the drop. But what I was not expecting was for Ryan Garcia not to recover. Because Ryan Garcia was not terribly hurt in that moment. He recovered quite fine. He just got caught. But Ryan Garcia just didn't fix anything. The entirety of that fight was Ryan Garcia trying to put something together and being unable to really attack Raleigh at any way, shape, or form. He was hesitant to let go. I'm not sure how many times we even saw him go for his left hook. He would go after a jab or two and then he'd lay off of it. He wouldn't go put together combinations. He wouldn't really want to pursue anything on Raleigh. Is essentially what Ryan Garcia decided to do is that after he got knocked down, he gave it a couple more rounds of doing his low jab and stuff like that. And then the second half of the fight was, for the most part, him just being there. It's as if he was just watching the clock tick down until 12 rounds came to the conclusion and he could get his paycheck or whatever it is and hop up on out of there. I don't know what is going on. He knew, based upon the corner, that those final championship rounds, and especially that 12th round, that he was going to need a KO to win. And yet all we witnessed was Ryan Garcia just do the same thing he was doing the entire second half of the fight. I didn't understand what his game plan was. I don't know what he was doing out there. And at the end of the day, listen, yes, he gets the loss in his loss column. I get it. But you know what's bigger than even the loss column for Ryan Garcia? Is that he just lost himself a lot of money. Ryan Garcia managed to build himself up with such a big name. Now, was it partially because of his craziness, his erratic behavior? Of course. And I did mention this in the previews of this fight, that listen, when we talk about Ryan Garcia, this was an entirely different personality that we witnessed in that ring in the build-up process than we had seen in the Devin Haney build-up. He was clearly different. I know we talked about being sober, and so that was clearly evident. Could it have been the PEDs? I don't know. I'm not going to really go down that whole storyline, but he was different. And it almost felt like, okay, is this just a peaceful version? Could we see a dominant Ryan Garcia quickly and get Raleigh out of the quickly as many expected? Unfortunately, that's not what we witnessed tonight. It appears that peaceful Ryan Garcia was very similar to the peaceful Deontay Wilder that we've seen, where he just goes in the ring and doesn't want to utilize that power. Because Ryan Garcia didn't really grow his name too much building up to this fight. He was one of the biggest stars in boxing leading into this fight. Nobody would have denied that. But after that performance, Ryan Garcia's star power seems to dwindle quite a bit. We're at a position now, and it's quite mysterious as to what Ryan Garcia is going to do going forward now. He does have to get back to the drawing board, figure something out. Because heading into this fight, I talked about it yesterday, Conor Benn was sitting ringside if nobody noticed. Conor Benn was there, and there very likely could have been even potentially a face-off in the ring between the two of them, or a face-off with Devin Haney. Instead, that was far from what we were going to witness tonight after that abysmal performance. Ryan Garcia cost himself big-time things. Like I said, we were just talking about him doing a stadium fight with Conor Benn, or one of the biggest, most anticipated rematches with Devin Haney next. Those are off the table now. Ryan Garcia is going to have to do another fight. And this was supposed to be essentially, an easy win for both Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, and even Teofimo Lopez. Lopez took advantage of that. The other two are supposed to be easy wins, and not so much. So Ryan Garcia, very, very embarrassing performance. Exact scorecards read 115-112 on two of them, 118-109 on the third one. That being said, I don't know where Ryan Garcia goes from here. He's going to have to figure something out at 147, get that dog back in him, and get going. That was not a good performance whatsoever. But I do not want to do all this without saying in grand finale here, wrapping this portion up, talking about Rolly Romero. Because I want to go out Ryan Garcia. Obviously, he was the favorite to win that fight. He had all the star power. But I don't want to be negative because, like I said, there was two guys that did show up tonight. The names are Teofimo Lopez, Rolly Romero. And so Rolly does deserve his flowers. All pre-build-up time for this entire fight card, people discussed, hey, Rolly Romero is going to lose. He's going to get KO'd early on, so on and so forth. Myself is included in that group. I'll take full accountability there. And yet what we witnessed was the exact opposite. Rolly Romero did not only have the power he displayed when he knocked down Ryan Garcia, but Rolly Romero also outboxed Ryan Garcia tonight. I don't think anybody was expecting that. Rolly Romero came and showed out tonight. He put together an excellent performance. He proved everybody wrong. And now Rolly Romero has himself positioned where, hey, I have the WBA regular belt. And albeit a crazy situation, Rolly Romero now has positioned himself where potentially he could be in the mix for a world championship now at 147 as well. This man could once again add another belt to his resume, which is incredible to think about. We'll see if that comes to fruition, but he deserves all the props in the world. He did not take on this underdog role and just take it on and just take the loss against Ryan Garcia. He came out there with a game plan. He was confident. He executed that game plan, and now he has a big win on his resume against Ryan Garcia. So there's no way I can go without this whole segment without praising Rolly Romero and giving him the credit he deserves, because he's now set himself up in a great position moving forward. A huge position moving forward because, listen, like I said, he legitimately has a chance now to fight for a world championship in the future. There's no contract involved like there was for Ryan Garcia to have to fight Devin Haney or anything along those lines. Rolly could easily be the one that goes and fights a guy like Conor Benn. He could go challenge for a world championship, whether that be against a guy like Mario Barrios or someone along those lines. He's put himself in big position for another fight now. So major props to Rolly Romero because he came out there and he earned that fight tonight. A couple of the points I want to do before I wrap up this and head into the preview segments for the rest of this weekend's cards. Obviously, the rematch is now over for Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. I'm not interested in that fight. And either way, the contract's not been broken because of the fact that, well, let's be honest, Ryan Garcia lost. That rematch no longer has to happen. The contract's been broken, and there is no guaranteed rematch to happen now because both parties had to win. This is a very similar situation to December 22nd, 2023, when Deontay Wilder and AJ fought on the same exact card, both of which ended, obviously AJ won, Wilder lost, and at that point in time, we walked away saying, well, that fight's now off the table. This is the same exact situation here now. Could it happen in the future? Sure. Is it going to happen next? No. At the same time, I talked about Teofimo Lopez, who stole the show tonight, made the biggest statement outside of Rolly Romero, and I said Teofimo Lopez should stick at 140. You could make a case that that same statement should be made for both Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia. When you talk about Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, neither one looked good at whatsoever tonight. We talked about many, many times. Is it best for them to stick at 140? I don't know if they can go make that weight anymore, but I'm just saying 147 did not look good for them. Not a good debut. And neither one was really fighting a legitimate 147 guy anyways. I would not be shocked to see these guys really have to go back to the drawing board and figure out what's next because neither one looked good. Lots of improvements are needed. And is 147 the answer? Personally, I thought they looked horrible, and I would not mind seeing them stick at 140. But time will tell. My final statement here is once again, people want to blast Turkey for all these different things. It was not a very large viewing thing. But let me always say this is how I always will explain the Turkey Al-Sheikh cards. At the end of the day, whether you like the location or not, whether you can attend hypothetically or not, these fights are happening. This card and these fights would not have happened. Now, obviously it was kind of trash tonight, but regardless, you would not have seen these 3 fights go down had it not been for Turkey Al-Sheikh. So your options on the table are essentially, do you rather want the fight cards to happen or not happen? He's going to put them where he wants to put them. We can just sit back and watch the fights if we want to watch them. That's the discussion at the end of the day. In my opinion, I'd rather have these fights be on TV where I can watch them and experience these fights opposed to them never happening. There's not an option on the table where the same card would have been put together by somebody else out there and done in a location you want. That's not an option. So I think we need to stop blasting Turkey. This was an incredible event. Everything on the promotion end was handled perfectly. It was great. The fight itself, or the fights themselves, were atrocious. That's what I have today to wrap up the Times Square fight card that took place today. I'm going to go on a quick break, and then I'm going to hop into a preview of what we got going on in the store for us this upcoming weekend. I'll see you guys very shortly, a couple minutes. May God bless you guys out. And SchuZ is out. See you guys in a couple minutes. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SchuZ Show. I'm your Zach SchuZ Shoemaker, and this portion of the show, it's now time to preview what, man, I hope is a better next 2 days of boxing. We all knew this week was stacked. 3 days straight of lots of big names making fights. First day, great atmosphere, horrendous fights. Let's head into what hopefully we get to see tomorrow night on Saturday. Let's head out to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. My apologies on that one. We're going to start off with the main event and head on down. And then after that, I'm going to head into Sunday's top ranked card, featuring Naoya Inoue. And I feel like, let me just say this. I am very skeptical that the Canelo Alvarez card could be a disaster. But I don't think Inoue is going to disappoint us. So let's stay tuned for that one real quickly. But let's head out to Saudi Arabia, Riyadh season card. Main event, Canelo Alvarez, William Scull, undisputed super middleweight championship of the world. Remember, Canelo Alvarez vacated this championship belt because he did not want to fight William Scull last year. Now, things come full circle. William Scull became a world champion in a very trash fight, but William Scull becomes world champion, and now we have a unification or undisputed championship fight taking place in Saudi Arabia as the main event. Canelo Alvarez, 62-2-2, 39 KOs, will be facing the unbeaten IBF champion William Scull, 23-0 and 9 KOs, and a unification belt of all the super middleweight belts, including the Ring Magazine belt. All right. We know who Canelo Alvarez is. One of the greatest of all time. A legend, one of the best of this generation. And let me just say this real quickly. Before I go any further, before I explain how I think Canelo Alvarez will destroy William Scull, let me say this. When I talk about Canelo Alvarez, we have to understand that he has this fight booked. He has the Bud Crawford fight booked for September. He has 2 fights booked next year. That could be it, folks. Canelo Alvarez has been a great ambassador for boxing. He's had a great career. And we're coming down where he might only have 4 fights remaining in his career. And because of that, let me just say this. Don't miss watching Canelo Alvarez and do not take him for granted. Would I like to see the big fights made for him? Yes. But I'm not going to take this man for granted. So make sure to appreciate greatness while it's here. For Canelo Alvarez, let me just say this. I can break down the strengths, the weaknesses here. Obviously, for Scull, he's a taller guy. He's rangier, relies on movement, those type of things. We know Canelo. He's one of the elite fighters, pound-for-pound type guys. He has a granite chin. He doesn't get KO'd. He is incredible. We know what he's capable of. There's not really much to explain here. I feel like this main event is going to be a horrible ending to the night, outside of the fact that Canelo Alvarez is going to go out there, have a dominant win, and he's going to go have all 4 belts. He's going to have the Ring Magazine belt, the Undisputed belt. He's going to have all these belts on him. That's how I see that night ending. I don't think it's going to be competitive. What I do hope to see and what I think could make the grand finale for tomorrow night's card would be seeing Canelo Alvarez spark William Scull out of there and get a nice KO added onto his resume. That wouldn't shock me. I feel like when we look at Jaime Munguia last year, very easily could Munguia have been KO'd, yes, but I feel like Canelo just kind of let him stay in there. Then Edgar Berlanga didn't even want to come out and really fight. He's just trash talking the whole time and moving around, whatever. I feel like we could easily see a Canelo Alvarez KO here. That would not shock me at all. Regardless, though, Canelo Alvarez is going to destroy William Scull. I don't see it even being a competitive fight. And we'll see what happens. Obviously, we just saw a massive fight get blown up tonight. Could tomorrow night William Scull go and blow up the Terrence Crawford versus Canelo fight? I mean, hypothetically, I would be absolutely shocked. Raleigh Romero is going to be one of the biggest upsets of the year, but it's not, this would not even, I mean, this upset would probably be one of the greatest upsets in boxing history if it happens. That's just the way it is. So yes, I believe Scull will have a late stoppage, I believe Canelo will have a late stoppage or a decision win. That's pretty much how it's going to be. He's going to break down Scull, apply his pressure with the body work. He's going to go to work and get him out of there. Not much to explain. That's quite simple there. Canelo Alvarez will easily win that fight. Let's go to the co-main event. Speaking of massive upsets, the upset of 2024. Bruno Suarez versus Jaime Munguia, a super middleweight rematch. Remember, Jaime Munguia was fighting his hometown last year to end the year, and I think it was December 17th. And at that point in time, he's controlling the fight, completely dominating it, and then boom, Munguia gets rocked badly. He gets put down, fight's over, KO. Suarez all of a sudden becomes this guy that was just a quick tune-up, little fun fight for Munguia to fight back home. All of a sudden, it turns into this thing where Munguia's career is up in the balance now of what the heck just happened. He just got spark knocked out, and now it's in a situation where Munguia's far away from a title championship or anything along those lines like he once was. So this is very, very exciting because for Bruno Suarez, he's 26-0. He has never lost in his career with 2 draws. Also 5 KOs on his resume. And that was the other portion too that was shocking about the Jaime Munguia KO because, well, crazy enough, Sorsay doesn't really knock guys out. Only 4 KOs at that point in time. One of the craziest upsets of the year last year. While Jaime Munguia is 44-2, 44 wins, 2 losses, 35 KOs, this is an immediate rematch. It's cool that Canelo, who does clearly have great love and support for Jaime Munguia, put him on this card, help him be a part of it, get this rematch set. And I'm excited for it. Let's remember, though, Jaime Munguia was dominating Sorsay in the first fight. It was not competitive. Munguia is a 10 times better fighter than Sorsay. It should be able to easily get that win. At the same time, this is boxing. Anything can happen, just as we saw in the first fight. For Bruno, he is a French boxer. Obviously, I said his claim to fame is the big shocking fight and upset over Jaime Munguia, which became the upset of the year in 2024. While Munguia, we know, is a power puncher, former world champion, he needs his rematch. This fight is critical for Jaime Munguia. If Munguia loses tomorrow night, all of a sudden his career is on the downward trajectory, and it just goes from already very, very iffy to just plummets. This is a critical night for Jaime Munguia, where if he does not come out victorious tomorrow, there's going to be serious issues. This is a must win for Jaime Munguia. What do I think is going to happen, though? Jaime Munguia has Canelo's trainer Eddie Reynoso in his corner, making adjustments. He's been training with Canelo Alvarez. And in the first fight, Munguia was not utilizing his power. He was utilizing his skill to go with victory. I see that happening once again. And unless Bruno can get a devastating knockout again, Munguia should cruise to a pretty easy decision tomorrow. But once again, he needs to box smarter. And I think we're going to see him be a little bit smarter and more hesitant tomorrow. For better or worse. He knows for a fact he can outbox Bruno Sorsay with ease. The biggest thing for Jaime Munguia is to make sure he does not get caught again. Don't just go for the finish trying to get him out. You just got to get past Bruno Sorsay. Bruno's going to come with a lot of confidence. He has pulled off the upset of the year. He all of a sudden has the power that he believes he has. You need to make sure that you do not allow yourself to get reckless and just stay disciplined the entire time. Don't let him get in a position where he can knock you out. And if Jaime Munguia does that, which I think he will, he's going to get an easy victory tomorrow night against Bruno Sorsay and get his get back. Let's go to the next fight. A heavyweight clash between Martin Bakole, Efe Ajagba. I've got a few things I want to say here. For Martin Bakole, let me just get the facts to begin with this whole preview. Bakole's 21-2 with 16 KOs. He beats the Nigerian powerhouse Efe Ajagba with a 21 record, 14 KOs. And this is a critical heavyweight bout because the winner of this sets himself up for a massive fight next in the heavyweight division. And let me just clarify things for people right now. When we talk about this fight, a lot of us will draw criticism to Martin Bakole and his camp for allowing him to take that fight against Joseph Parker. But can we go back and just remember the hype surrounding Martin Bakole prior to Joseph Parker fight? Now, that was a devastating knockout by Joseph Parker. And Parker deserves all the credit in the world. It's not his fault he was put in that situation. Bakole got paid well. Nothing against him taking that fight. But as long as he went to training camp and he recovered all right, Martin Bakole is still a force to be reckoned with. At the same time, I have something that's bothering me. When I look at the way that he looks in the weigh-ins, at the press conferences this week, I'm skeptical about what Martin Bakole is doing. He actually doesn't look much different at all. And when we were promised this, that Martin Bakole was going to have a much better fit and shape to himself heading into his next fight when he actually has a real training camp. But based upon the way he's weighing in, the way he looks right now, Martin Bakole does not look very good. He looks almost identical to the way he looked against Joseph Parker, which does concern me for two reasons. One of which is, was it a legitimate performance? Was he actually ready for Joseph Parker? And secondly, could this be a situation where he got paid or something, he doesn't want to put in the work or something along those lines? There could be a legitimate issue here with Martin Bakole if he's not ready to go tomorrow. Efe Ajagba is a great fighter. I like him a lot. And if we were to go back and you were to ask me who I think I have winning this fight back in, back when this first was being rumored as a fight to go down, which I think was actually November, I thought Martin Bakole with ease. But let me break down this fight a little bit more before I give you my official one. Bakole is skilled but very inconsistent. Obviously, he's coming off a very devastating knockout to Joseph Parker. While Ajagba is very heavy-handed, known for his jab, he has a great right hand. And this fight would obviously put him in title contention, which is what he wants to be in. Bakole is more experienced, but Ajagba has raw power. He also has much longer reach, and he's a knockout threat at all times. The biggest thing I want to see is how does Martin Bakole recover from his last fight? If he comes in out of shape, which he does look out of shape, and if Marlon McColley comes into a position where he is not fully mentally ready to go for another big-time fight, there could be big problems. Ojagba has won 5 straight fights. He set himself up to be in this fight and for a position to be in here. He is, and that means a lot. Momentum is key for boxers. That 5-fight win streak is huge for Ojagba heading into that. He has the confidence, but Coley probably has confidence, but at the same time, he can't deny what just happened just a couple months ago on February 22nd. So what do I have prediction for this fight? These are heavyweights. Either guy can go down at any point in time. I could see a legitimate case for Marlon McColley becoming out victorious, and I could also see F.A. Ojagba coming out victorious. My prediction here is I believe that F.A. Ojagba will return tomorrow to the ring with a KO in the mid-rounds of Marlon McColley. As I said, if you were to ask me this question multiple months ago, I would have said Marlon McColley, probably the opposite. But what I've witnessed now here is a situation where I'm not so confident in Marlon McColley. Because of the fact the way he looks physically, because of the fact he's coming off a knockout loss that was devastating just a couple weeks ago, I'm in a position where I'm quite skeptical, actually, about this performance for him. I could easily be proved wrong here. Like I said, both guys could go out at any point. These are heavyweights that have great, great power. But at the same time, F.A. Ojagba has the momentum. He has not taken damage recently. And I see F.A. Ojagba emerging victorious when I speak to you guys on Monday. The final fight I want to discuss from the card tomorrow night, Badou Jack, Naoya Mikajian. WBC Cruiserweight titles on the line. This fight excites me. Remember, this was not this fight that was originally scheduled. This was a fight that had to have a late replacement, but the replacement fight ends up becoming 10 times better than the original fight. Why? Well, let me give you guys backstory between this. Badou Jack and Naoya, both these guys were going back and forth in terms of becoming champion recess, the champion, so on and so forth, for multiple promotional reasons and other stories outside of boxing. Now we get a chance in a situation where we say, okay, we can finally find out who the legitimate champion is in the Cruiserweight division for the WBC title. I love it. This is a perfect fight to make. I love this opportunity for both guys. Giving you backstory. Badou Jack, 28-3-3 with 17 KOs. He currently heads into this fight with the WBC Cruiserweight title. While Naoya, he has a 27-2 record with 12 KOs. Both guys are very, very solid here. I'm excited for this fight, like I said, to finally get the next champion in the Cruiserweight division. I think that Jai Opetaia and Zurdo would destroy both these guys. Just my opinion. But this fight needed to happen, and I'm glad this happened. Giving us some backups here. For Badou Jack, he's a veteran fighter, former super middleweight and light heavyweight title holder. For Naoya, he's an Armenian contender. He also had a good fight in 2023, and he's now challenging for the belt. What to expect from Badou Jack? He is a well-rounded, durable. He has a great jab. He's also a good counterpuncher. As for Naoya, he's bigger, younger, more aggressive, and has knockout power. Key to remember that portion right there, what I said. The thing is that Badou Jack has not fought in over 2 years. We saw last weekend Liam Smith struggle with being out of the ring for 2 years while being at an older age. Now Badou Jack's in the same situation. He's much more fresher for Naoya, and he seems to be a little bit more dangerous. And that is why my prediction for tomorrow night is that the belt will be changing hands. Naoya will emerge victorious by late stoppage. I think that we're going to see a massive issue with Badou Jack's inactivity and age catching up to him. I could very well be wrong there. I'll always say that. It's boxing. Anything can happen. But if I were to make my prediction, that's what I have set for Saturday night's card. I think that being out of the ring for 2 years and inactivity is going to come up to harm him now heading into this next fight. That's what I've got for the Riyadh season Canelo Alvarez card. Let's head into what to expect now in the top-ranked card coming up on Sunday. The main event, Naoya Inoue fighting Ramon Cardenas. Ramon was on the show just a couple weeks ago. Make sure to go check that interview out if you have not already. Incredible guy. He's earned this spot. He's on this position. He deserves to be in this ring tomorrow. That being said, for those that do not know, who is in my opinion the best fighter in boxing, Naoya the Monster Inoue. 29-0, 26 KOs. He defends his WBC, WBO, WBA, and IBF junior featherweight titles, and his Ring Magazine belt against Ramon Cardenas, who is 26-1 with 14 KOs. For those of you that do not know Inoue, he's my number one fighter in the world, pound for pound top 3 in just about everybody's list. He's undisputed in 2 weight classes. He's also known as one of the most powerful, deadly fighters in all the world. Cardenas is on a 14-fight win streak. This would be his first challenge for a world championship. Inoue has the full package. He has everything. Well, for those that do not know Cardenas, he has great fundamentals, good movement, but he does lack being on the stage. This would be by far the biggest stage of his career. The T-Mobile Arena is no joke. Fighting a guy of Inoue, who is that guy, is not easy. Inoue will be fighting in America for the very first time since 2021, and he wants to go out there and make a statement. Obviously, Cardenas is the massive underdog in this fight. And with that being said, while I think there's a chance that Ramon does a great power, we saw him display that earlier this year, this will be a very challenging fight for him. As I said, Inoue is the number one fighter in the world for me. And if I had to make my prediction, Inoue will be winning this fight by early stoppage. That's the way that Inoue handles business. I think Ramon Cardenas will be able to make it out of the first couple of rounds. I think Inoue will turn up the pressure. And at that point in time, that power and that pressure is going to catch up. You can't avoid Inoue. I don't think anybody can beat Inoue at 122 or under. Yes, that includes Yuto Nakatani. Yes, that includes Ben Rodriguez. And honestly, I don't think anybody beats him at 126. Potentially, I could say 132, but that's so far off, there's no point in saying that. Inoue is that guy. I think when I come back on this show on Monday, I'll be once again discussing why Inoue is one of the best fighters of this generation and will go down as one of the greatest fighters of all time. Co-main event, Rafael Espinoza versus Edward Vasquez for the WBO featherweight title. Rafael Espinoza is 26-0 with 22 KOs. He defends his WBO featherweight title against Edward Vasquez, who is 17-2 with 4 KOs. Espinoza is the Mexican champion. He won the belt after that huge upset last year against Robeisy Ramirez. This will now be his third title defense. For Vasquez, he's a Texas-born challenger. He's tough, light-heading, and previously lost the title bid to Joe Cordina. That's the last time he was in the situation. Espinoza is tall. He's rangy. He's aggressive. He's a good boxer with also ability to go brawl. Now, Vasquez, he's a very, very durable fighter, technical, and relies on movement counters. I think that this is going to be a little bit more competitive fight than the main event. At the same time, I do expect Espinoza to have a late stoppage in this fight. I think he's a much better fighter than Vasquez. I think he has much more longevity ability to him. His size, his power oversees Vasquez. I think that we're going to see a good fight by Espinoza. Vasquez is solid. Don't get that wrong. But I think Espinoza is going to have a solid victory here, get a late stoppage. That's how the co-main event will be going. Let's look at the undercard now. I'm going to go through this portion a little bit quicker because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Just a quick recap. Rohan Polanco, Fabian Medina, welterweight clash. Rohan Polanco's 15-0, 10 KOs. The Argentina is 24-3 with 18 KOs. Polanco's going to win by decision. He's one of the most exciting prospects in boxing. I love watching when he brings to the table. Watch him fight. I think Medina's a tough fighter. It's going to be a good challenge for Polanco. At the same time, Polanco, as I said, is one of the best prospects in all boxing. If you want to see one of the future champions in boxing, go watch him fight tomorrow or on Sunday, and you will be very, very impressed. Let's head over to the other fight. Rising star Emiliano Vargas, 13-0, 11 KOs, takes on Spain's Juan Leon, 11-2-1 with 2 KOs. Vargas will get a mid-round knockout. His power and pedigree will be too much. It's just another step-up fight for Emiliano Vargas. Not as high on him in terms of a prospect as I am for Rohan Polanco. Still, a good prospect will be in the mix for a title contender, maybe even a world champion in the future. He'll be in that mix, so make sure to tune in for him. I think he will get a good mid-round stoppage there in KO. Then, Mitiko Nakano, he'll be fighting Pedro Marquez for the featherweight battle. The Japanese prospect, he is 12-0 with 11 KOs. The Puerto Rican contender is 16-1 with 10 KOs. Nakano will get the win by knockout. Once again, just another fight to step up, build the resume of one for Top Rank to build the resume of one of the top young prospects. Interesting to go watch Nakano fight. I think it's going to be good for y'all to always check him out. He's a good fighter, very entertaining, but I do expect him to get an easy KO early on in the fight. Then, Art Barrera Jr. versus Juan Carlos Guerrero Jr. Junior middleweight fight. Art Barrera was 8-0 with 6 KOs against Juan Carlos Guerrero the Jr. He is 6-1-1, 2 KOs. This is an interesting fight. I think it's going to be explosive finish. I think we will be heading for a KO in this fight. My guess here for what's going to happen here is I do currently have Art Barrera Jr. winning this fight. Not 100% set on this. I just think that him being the younger fighter, I think he's going to be a solid step up for himself. But I do expect to see a KO finish in this one. And last but most certainly not least, the last fight I want to get up to, Reyes Alim fighting Rudy Garcia for the featherweight belt. The former world title challenger, Reyes Alim, 21-1 with 12 KOs, will be facing Garcia, who is 13-1-1 with 2 KOs. This will be a solid fight. I think it could be maybe one of the better fights, but I do expect Alim to win this fight by decision. I don't expect a KO, but rather by decision. It will go the distance, I believe, and it will be a solid fight to potentially propel him as it continues to progress in his career moving forward. But a solid fight nonetheless. That will be going down on Sunday for you guys. I think it's going to be a great card. So as I said, lots of fights. Tonight was disappointing on Friday. On Saturday, we have 2 big cards, or 1 card on Saturday, 1 card on Sunday, 2 cards remaining. Hopefully we get better results than what we just witnessed on this Friday. That being said, I've got one more thing I want to just announce. Just boxing news, putting it out there. Fabio Wardley will now face the WBO number 1 ranked heavyweight Justis Huni for a vacant WBA interim world title on June 7th. Originally supposed to be Drew Big Baby Miller, fell apart early in the week. It came down to Filip Hrgovic, came down to Michael Hunter, and Justis Huni. And the answer, Justis Huni gets the shot. I said it's the most dangerous opponent for Fabio Wardley. Way too early prediction. I still do have Fabio Wardley winning this one. I am skeptical about that. I have to actually think more about that. But I like Justis Huni probably more than some people do. At the same time, I knew Filip Hrgovic was not going to happen. He had a bad cut in his last fight. It was not going to heal up on time. Michael Hunter, I would have liked to have seen that one. However, did not come to fruition. So I think Justis Huni, the number 1 in the WBO, fighting Fabio Wardley makes a lot of sense. I'm excited to see that fight. That being said, though, folks, I appreciate you guys all for tuning into all 5 shows, or actually 6 shows this week, but 5 boxing shows this week. I hope you guys have a great rest of your guys' Friday nights. I hope you guys have a blessed weekend, and I will see you guys Monday ready to break down a special 2 cards for you guys, give you guys updates on boxing news. With that being said, have a great weekend. May God bless you guys all, and SchuZ is out. See you guys on Monday.